Hi everyone. I have come out of hermit mode to record a short video about why I went into hermit mode in the first place. If you've been in the spiritual community for long, or you've been practicing shadow work, meditation, any kind of spiritual led method of your own, you may understand what hermit mode means, what going no contact means. And this message is really for you, because if you've already gone no contact and you've made that decision for yourself from people that were in your past, and you've closed doors with people, then you will resonate with what I'm saying here. But to kind of go into a little bit about why I went no contact, and the irony is that it was forced. I was pushed out from a family situation, from a family group, where certain dynamics occurred, and some of those dynamics involved scapegoating, a certain amount of disrespect, a lot of it, and a lot of a lack of self-accountability. I was literally told point blank by a senior member of the family that nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. And generally what that means is that I had a differing opinion about a lot of things, and there was a lot of extreme emotions in our family dynamic. There were a lot of angry outbursts and heightened sensibilities, and people being very egotistical. And so to keep the peace, being an empathic person and also wanting to be a peacemaker, I learned to be quiet. I learned to keep my mouth shut, try and do for other people. I tried to be supportive. I tried to be logical in my approach to family problems and dynamics. I tried to convince people of a different point of view instead of the one that created a lot of the outburst. And so as a consequence of that, I naturally sort of lost my own voice. I became sort of the shadow in the background that nobody really wanted to hear. I was just there to make everybody else happy. And I did it so well that I trained them to expect that of me. Until I just decided, enough's enough, and I'm going to say what I think. And I'm going to spill it out and just say, this is exactly what I think, and I don't care if you don't like what I have to say, I'm going to say it. And I said it in a way that was kind of in your face. I was like, you don't really believe that. This guy is a jerk, or whatever. It's just, I was really very abrupt with it, shall we say. I have a lot of Scorpio in me, and so my stinger comes out, and I'm very scorpionic. And I just go for it, right? I go for the jugular, right? Especially if I'm the one being hurt, then I will be very reactive. Well, obviously that wasn't taken too well. And because I suddenly stopped being the supportive one and the one that's the agreeable to everybody and saying what everybody wanted to hear, all of a sudden I was saying very different things. And they get ruffled a lot of feathers, and at the end of the day they were just like, no, we don't want to hear you anymore because you're just telling us what we don't want to hear. People wouldn't return my calls. People wouldn't come to my events. When I got married again, a Other family members completely ignored my invitation, didn't RSVP. So, needless to say, I was pretty fed up with it. And I just decided, okay, I'm being forced out. It is what it is. It was very hurtful. But I'm not going to roll over and die. And I'm not going to go back to what I was doing before, which is cajoling and trying to make everybody else feel better when nobody seemed to give a damn about how I felt. So what I did instead is I simply crawled away into my hermit cave and worked on myself. So, though it was a forced no contact, it ended up actually being a major, major turning point in my life. They did me a favor. I think what they really wanted me to do, because of the family dynamics and their certain insecurities and belief systems that they have, I think they sort of expected me to come crawling back and begging to come back into the family fold. And I didn't do it. I did the opposite. I moved to another country. But part of the reason why I moved to another country was because I had already started to heal. I was already on that healing path. And I was always very independent too. And I always had my own way of looking at things, and I had my own opinions about things, and I followed my own way and did things my way. Put my foot down and said, okay, well, if they don't want me in their family fold, I'm not playing by their rules anymore. And the fact that I even had to play by their rules in order to be considered part of the family seemed ridiculous to me. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll do my own thing. And I did. And I came and I built a new life in a new country with my husband and my kids. And just didn't call, didn't write. I dropped the phone, literally dropped the phone and said, enough's enough, I'm done. But in the process of making that decision and that choice for me, I began to be forced into myself more because, yes, it was painful. Yes, it was a very, very hard thing to do because I loved these people. And I love these people. No matter what they did and no matter what their reasons were or why they did the things that they did to me by pushing me out and by continuing to push me out, I still love them. There were very, very important people in my life, and they're not all bad. They make bad choices, just like most people make bad choices. But they're not all bad. What they did to me was deplorable, but it did me a favor too. Because by walking away, by being forced out, I was forced into myself. I had to ask myself, why, in what way did I contribute to that dynamic myself? And of course, that's when I learned about being too differential and about silencing myself in order to be more accepted and denying my own right to be who I am and what I am by completely divesting myself of healthy boundaries. And all of this came out for me in my inner work and my shadow work. And I realized that's what I've been doing. I mean, it's like the reason why they brought me down so much by their behavior was not because they were bringing me down by their actions. It's because I was bringing myself down by my own beliefs in what they were projecting to me. So if they're going to be saying to me, We don't want to hear anything you have to say. Well, why is that my problem? If they don't want to hear what I have to say, it's because they've closed themselves off from alternative viewpoints. They only want to hear what they want to hear. They don't want to hear anybody else say anything different. That's their problem, not my problem. I made it my problem. I believed that when they told me that I was not valuable. But the truth is that just because they didn't see what I had to say as valuable doesn't mean that it doesn't have value. And it doesn't mean that my identity isn't valued or valuable. It simply means that they don't want to hear it. But I acquired a certain belief set from what they did and how they said things and how they behaved towards me, and I assumed it was me. It was all me. Even to this day, the only contact I've had recently is with a sibling who wants to know why I won't talk to him. And the way he puts it, it's like it's my fault. Why there's been no conversation and no contact between me and him. But he's damning himself in his own sentence. He says, well, it's been 3 years since we spoke. Well, the phone works both ways, right? And when I had to confront this notion of, my responsibility to an unhealthy dynamic. Yes, they did those things to me, but that doesn't mean that I have to believe them or believe the projection that they're having about me. I don't have to believe it. I can believe my own truth. And my own truth is, that's on them. And if they don't want to hear what I have to say, fine. We get lost so much in how other people behave toward us. And we ascribe those feelings and those behaviors on ourselves, when at the end of the day, their behaviors are their behaviors. And maybe you are projecting something. Maybe I was projecting to them this need for their approval. And and because they couldn't approve of themselves, maybe they couldn't validate something for themselves, that they then couldn't turn around and validate and approve or accept somebody else. And that's usually how it works. Because what you feel on the inside, you're going to project that on the outside. So what does all this mean? Your pain is your gain. Because honestly, when I walked away and literally just stopped and didn't even attempt any further contact, which is actually what they expected me to do, and I didn't, it was a surprise to them. It was like, this is out of character. Why aren't you reaching out to us? Aren't you the peacemaker? Aren't you the one who's supposed to do all that work? You're supposed to work for us. And I said, no, I'm not going to work for you anymore. So here's a great analogy, okay, for why I went no contact. I worked really, really hard on myself, and I climbed a mountain. And let's say I had a family member who said, I'd like to go have lunch with you. Okay, well, you're going to have to come climb the mountain, just like I did. Because I'm up here on this mountain that I climbed, and I got up here, and it took a lot of hard work for me to get up here. I'm not going to come all the way down to have lunch with you. You're going to have to come up to the mountain to meet me. That's the kind of sovereignty that we all need to have. We have to take ownership for ourselves, and we have to take accountability for ourselves. But we are not in charge of accounting for someone else's behavior and someone else's choices. My inner work is expressed in my outer work. I'm a totally different person than I used to be now. in some ways. I'm still caring, and I'm still very empathic, but I have a lot of very, very firm boundaries now. Boundaries that didn't exist before, and I protect myself. So why do I no contact even now after all my healing work? Because I don't want to go back there. I know where the mines are. I know where the bombs are buried. I don't want to go back to exactly the same place that I just escaped from just so I can get blown up again, just so I can get hurt again. And not to say that I'm totally vulnerable like I once was, but at the same time, I don't want to work for them. I want to work for me. And I want to work for what's strong for me, what's good for me, what's healthy for me, what's loving for me, what's nurturing for me. And going back into a minefield is not what I call nurturing. It's not safe. I left a bombed out location where there were still bombs buried. And I don't want to go back to that. I want to protect my peace. I want to find and nurture and continue to nurture that which is growing beautiful inside me and in my heart and in my mind and in my life. And I want to continue to build that and care for it. I know that they are still unhealed. I know that the dynamics that existed when I left are still there. If they weren't there, they would have reached out. They would have contacted me, and they would not be trying to project me as the person who is to blame for having left when they were the ones who kicked me out. So I know they're not healed. I know they haven't done the work on themselves. So I'm not going back. My fence is up. I'm quite done with all of the fancy shenanigans and emotional manipulations and game playing. I'm done with all of it. And I'm moving forward into a whole different reality and a whole new life. And I'm super, super happy about it, where I am now. And to be able to live in a place where I can come to the woods and talk to you. So I hope this helps someone. I hope that this brought you a little bit of inspiration for how and why going no contact is not just something that you have to do to heal, but it's also something you have to do to maintain your own happiness. So, best of luck to everybody. I hope this reaches you and the people who really need to hear it. Take care. Bye.